Okay, so we're constantly told that the AI boom is this unstoppable gold rush, right? But what if, behind all the headlines, the very foundations of it are actually crumbling? We're going to explain the story of AI's unseen collapse. And more importantly, what's about to replace it? From the outside, it totally looks invincible. It's a gold rush, for sure. You've got a handful of giant companies who seem to hold all the keys to the kingdom. And they're building these incredibly powerful models in this, spectacular show of tech power. But what if that whole spectacular show is built on a shaky foundation? And here's the thing. This isn't just a theory. This isn't speculation. The evidence we're talking about today comes straight from respected industry sources. We're talking TechCrunch, financial analysts at Bain Capital, and maybe most damning of all, from leaked internal memos at Google itself. To really get the collapse, first you have to understand what's collapsing. So let's take a look at the model that got us here in the first place, what we're calling the Babylonian boom of centralized AI. So think of it like this. It's like building a massive, spectacular tower of AI, right? One that's designed to be controlled by just a select few. It's a model that's all about closed systems, secret, proprietary data, and deliberately keeping the key tech, like GPUs, scarce and expensive, all to protect those sky-high profit margins. All right, now for the good stuff. Let's get into the evidence, because the cracks in this tower, they aren't just little hairline fractures. They are deep, they are systemic, and they are changing everything. Okay, sign number one, and this is a big one, confirmed by analysis from firms like Bain Capital Ventures. The super profitable software as a service, or SaaS business model, it just doesn't work for AI in the same way. The math is broken. And this chart, wow, it just lays it out so clearly. A normal cloud software company, they're looking at beautiful 80% gross margins. But AI startups, they're getting squeezed down to around 60%. And why? It's those massive, relentless compute costs. It's not a one-time purchase. It's a constant drain just to keep the lights on. This is the killer takeaway for investors. The very business model that basically created a whole generation of software billionaires is fundamentally broken when you apply it to AI. The costs are just way too high, and they completely vaporize the profits that venture capital money is chasing. Next up, sign number two. The core products themselves, these large language models, or LLMs, they're quickly becoming commodities. They're interchangeable. And you know what happens then? A brutal, all-out price war. I mean, just look at the scale of these cuts. In just the past year, you've got giants like OpenAI and Google slashing their prices by as much as 90%. When prices drop that fast, that's the classic signal that you're not selling unique, special technology anymore. You're selling a basic commodity, like wheat or oil. And like TechCrunch pointed out, when there's almost nothing to tell the top models apart, the only thing you can compete on is price. That kind of race to the bottom, well, it's absolutely fatal for a business model that depends on high margins. And that brings us to the third sign of collapse, the idea of a defensible moat. You know, that unbreachable competitive advantage that investors are always looking for? In AI, it's turned out to be a complete fantasy. 7,000 plus. That's how many new models flooded the open source world almost immediately after Meta's Llama model got out. They call it the fork loop. It means any proprietary edge, any special sauce you think you have, it vanishes almost instantly. And hey, you don't have to take our word for it. In that now infamous leaked memo, Google's own researchers put it as bluntly as you can. We have no moat. They flat out admitted that free, open-source models were catching up in quality at a shocking, almost terrifying speed. And finally, you've got the last two pillars that were holding this whole tower up, and they are both crumbling at the exact same time. The myth of hardware scarcity and this naive assumption that they were legally safe. Okay, let's unpack this because there's a lot here. First, that GPU shortage that was supposed to protect the big guys, turns out it was just a temporary supply problem. The real bottleneck is already shifting to something way harder to hoard, raw electricity. At the same time, the legal ground beneath the entire industry is turning into quicksand. You've got this wave of massive copyright lawsuits from authors and publishers challenging how these models were trained in the first place. And to top it all off, the US Copyright Office just dropped a bomb. Work made purely by AI, it can't be copyrighted. That creates a massive intellectual property crisis for everyone involved. So, if the Tower of Babylon is falling, what's going to rise up from the rubble? A new model is already taking shape, one built on a totally different philosophy. It's a framework called Awonow. The Awonow framework is pretty much the polar opposite of Babylon. Instead of being closed in secret, it's open and verifiable. Instead of having these vague, ambiguous rules, it is explicitly bound by law. And this is huge, instead of just scraping data from all over the internet, it accesses data through secure, permissioned vaults. This whole thing rests on 3 core ideas, and each one is designed to fix a fatal flaw of the old model. First, there's covenant logic, which is like giving the AI a constitution, binding it to explicit, signed rules so it can't go rogue. Second, vault mechanics solves that whole copyright nightmare by having AI query secure data vaults instead of scraping data illegally. And third, sovereign AI makes sure these systems actually respect the laws and values of the countries and communities they operate in. It's a huge shift from just raw power to accountability by design. And look, this isn't some far-off, hypothetical future we're talking about. The move away from the old model is already underway, and the timeline for this shift is actually speeding up. The first cracks started showing back in 2023 with those leaks and the first lawsuits, but you really want to watch the period between 2026 and 2028. That's the predicted inflection point. It's when huge legal rulings and powerful new laws, like the EU AI Act, will likely force the entire industry's hand. Migrating to this new model won't just be a smart move, it'll be necessary for survival. Ultimately, this whole collapse just reframes the entire conversation we're having about AI. That chaotic, messy gold rush, the one defined by a race for more and more power, is ending. The next era of AI, it seems, won't be about who has the biggest, most powerful model. It'll be about who has the most trust. So the question we're left with isn't how powerful can we make it, but rather how trustworthy can we prove it to be?